Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to All for United, or All for Not So United at the moment. Obviously, you've probably all seen the last 24 hours, the information that's obviously arrived and come out, the sort of confrontation by all sorts of governing bodies, and it's all a bit crazy at the moment, to say the least. Football obviously has been inherent for many, many years, and it's basically come from a working class background that's now seeming to, like everything is a business opportunity, and that's been taken advantage of. Anyway, Hammer, obviously you and I have spoken a few times today, and not necessarily positive conversations, but if you want to just sort of give me your thoughts on this. Obviously, we're going to go around a few times, so you don't need to say everything right now.
Yeah.
But you know,
Man, this for me. This is like it's football elitism to umpteenth unbelievable level, And one of the things that I want to just touch on really quick, and like Mark said, there'll be time to talk about things more. Is I heard a lot of people using Americanism, and I know some people ended up telling me, and the guys on the show yesterday ended up saying that you meant like in the franchising part of it. This is so much further than franchising. This, if you want to look at it from a point of view in the States, this would be like taking the New York, LA teams and all the big market teams, pooling their money and making a new league and saying fuck off to the rest of the league, which is ridiculous because that nobody would stand for that, not even the fans here in the States. This isn't franchising. This isn't anything. This is taking. Elitism is the only way I can put it. I can't think of any other words to put into descriptions, but real franchising still leaves room for competition. Just this past season in the NBA Finals, a Miami Heat team that had one All-Star that the season before everybody was saying was washed up and done, made it to the finals. Yes, they lost to a fucking superpower Lakers, but they took one of the best teams in the league to 6 or 7 games in a 7-game series when they weren't even supposed to be anywhere near that final. So this eliminates any of that competition, and that's where the biggest difference comes. This is just saying that all these founding teams are just going to waltz into money, waltz into a tournament, waltz into something that they didn't fucking earn. And that is what sports is, no matter where you are. Sports is competition. And I agree. And one of the things that was messing with my head is that these teams, most of them are supposed to be the teams that represent competition, right? Represent grinding and winning trophies at the highest level and trying to be consistent and trying to be the best. And they're basically creating their own participation league. And I don't understand how it even makes sense, even to the owners who want to make more money.
yeah, I had to. There was discussions going on in one of the groups we've got going, and I agree with you. I mean, it's very easy to look at 3 of the clubs at least, Liverpool, Arsenal and United, all with American owners, and I can understand why they might want to have that approach. They've done this in America with the NFL, the NBA, and it's all to do with grassroots and trying to create a good structure. So, if it works for them, I can understand that why they want to bring it in here. But ultimately, this isn't about American owners coming in. This is about greedy owners coming in, because we've got it in as you've all seen, various leagues. So I think that's a good point, Hammer, and I absolutely agree with you. I just I was saying backstage, I just cannot find the words to be able to explain to somebody that's a non-football fan what this is all about. This football for many of us fans obviously is a massive part of our lives, and for anybody that doesn't understand that, it's very difficult for them to get on board and understand that. So as you can imagine, after all the drama and everything, trying to explain to the missus, it was very tough. But I mean, you can't find the words. And for me, unless somebody is going to come to me and say, right, this is what it is before, this is what it is after. You can't weigh up exactly what's going to happen and what sort of impact this is going to happen on everything. Callum, mate, your thoughts. I know you've had a few things to say today, and obviously there's been a lot of negativity surrounding what's been said. What are your thoughts, mate?
Well, I just want to start off by reading a quote that I feel is very relevant. A football club is more than just a club. It's an institution at the heart of our communities. Sport, regardless of what it is, must be run in the interest of those who participate, follow it and love it, not just for the privileged and wealthy few. And I think that sort is so relevant to what has happened. You've got owners who have no connection to the communities that love these clubs so dearly. The two clubs I'm most disappointed in, my hatred of Liverpool has been so well known. But for the first time in my life, I find myself feeling sorry for its supporters. I never thought I'd say that, but Liverpool as a whole are a extremely working class, proud city, and to see so many Scousers running around saying how ashamed they are of the club says everything. Man United, the same. A huge working class background, stems from Newton Heath, from shipyards through Matt Busby. And here we are sat here wondering what the fuck we're going to watch next season because our owners want to earn a few extra £100 million. They're absolutely, to me at this current time, if this goes ahead, football will go as a whole, looking at the bigger picture and not just our own teams. What happens if those 6 clubs can't play in the Premier League? It's not going to be the global brand that it is right now. The funding will probably go. The money bubble will eventually burst. The clubs that could afford those slightly higher wages because of the TV money will dry up. The money the pittance or the low amount of money that does funnel down the lower leagues and goes all the way down to grassroots level will go. Meaning the next generation of that 8-year-old lad that loves football won't come round. The love of walking up and the click of the turnstile when you go to the football with your dad, that won't happen any longer. And they don't care. We're all sat here, and I know all for United stances, it will go as well if this does go ahead. And I totally understand that and totally agree with that. But at this moment in time, this is something that we need to fight against. And until we hear the words, we are sorry, because we all know the Glazers have messed up big time throughout the last 16 years. But when you have Joel Glazer come out and use quotes like, putting the game we love on a sustainable footing, who's it sustainable for? When you see him coming out saying the widespread facilities that we can now invest in, have you seen the state of Old Trafford? Because he's given no interviews. He's given one interview when he first came to Man United on MUTV, and we've heard nothing since. Ed Woodward doesn't give any interviews. All of a sudden, we're hearing that the driving force for this is Ed Woodward, the Glazers, and JP Morgan. Ed Woodward, former employers were JP Morgan. He helped broker the deal for the Glazers through JP Morgan to buy Manchester United. There is no coincidence here that this club and these leeches that have bled our club dry for so long are the catalyst for what we are now seeing. They've ruined our club, and now they're ruining a rivalry that we've had with Liverpool. They're ruining the rivalry we've had with City. They're ruining football for everyone across Europe. It's not Liverpool we're angry at or Man United. We're angry at Fenway Sport. We're angry at the Glazers. We're angry at Kroenke. We're angry at all of them, and it's got to stop, and this cannot go ahead, because I am sat here now worried like that Man United aren't going to exist in 2 months' time, because that is where it's going.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, many conversations, I've seen lots of people, myself included. Obviously, you have a support for a single club. That might be 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years plus, okay? But unfortunately, there becomes a point where you have to really ask yourself the question, can I continue doing that? You know, as I said, we don't know the full magnitude. We don't know all of the reasonings and the statistics and the figures and whatever else that comes off the back of that. But ultimately, you don't need to fix what doesn't need fixing. And whilst there is more and more money that has been involved with it in the last, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, however long it is, it is sustainable. We've seen that. It has had an impact on lower clubs, but, you can't. There are too many times when these people have come out and said what they've said and completely lied. Okay, that might be Glazers, for example, coming out and saying, watch this space, Schweinsteiger sending shivers and all this. It's absolute rubbish, okay? And obviously someone like Joel Glazer, who's come out in the past and said, I've never understood the offside rule and I still don't. That says it all, really. That seems very trivial, but that says it all to me.
It's he's trying to act as if he is this beacon and spokesperson for football when he's a man that, like you've just said, didn't even understand the offside rule 2 years ago. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, ultimately, I think we've known that for a long time now, at least a few years, that they own Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They very much spend a lot of money on them, and they would probably obtain a lot of their money from Manchester United Football Club. Unfortunately, you have to have some sort of familiarity within your own country about how things are run and what everything entails. Okay. A sad point by Stuart there. My son asked me about our season tickets today. I didn't have an answer for him. It does have a bit of a knock-on effect. Ahmed, great to see you, buddy. Glad you can make it in the end. Just wanted to know your thoughts, buddy. And we'll talk about that after.
I'm just making sure I know where the mute button is because I've got a huge cover spot on my laptop. So sorry about that. Found it eventually. Right. Pleasure to have me on. Pleasure to be on. Don't know where to begin really, because I've been a fan of this club for 3/4 of my life. I don't live in Manchester. I don't claim, unfortunately, to know the ins and outs of the area. But the one thing I do understand is how hard it has been, not just for fans of yesteryear, but for fans who lived through the time we were relegated to the second division, from the time we had the Munich air disaster, recovering to win the European Cup, to become the team that we are today with the success that we've had. To have that practically thrown back in your face is probably the most disgraceful thing a football club could ever do. And I'm not one to toot my own horn here very much, but I love this club too much to let it go. But it might be something I have to do because of the fact that they took a decision that for me is just not like Manchester United. And it's been well documented today that people sacrifice their lives, their money, their time, their sweat, their tears to provide for this club. And for this to be the case now, that some stubborn Americans can't understand a basic offside rule, and they don't like relegation, so they think it's better to just create their own closed league like they do in the like in the NFL or the MLB, for example. They just seem to lack understanding, this wealthy bunch, of what it means to go to a football match, as Connor stated, to go through the turnstiles on a Saturday afternoon with your son or your cousin, your nephew, any group of people. You share a camaraderie that you don't get in many other places. It's a disgrace that we are here today, and it really shuns the 126 years that this club has been existing, and we as fans deserve more than what we're getting right now. And I don't know what more I can say to that, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you, mate. I agree with everything you're saying, really. I mean, I've seen a few quotes today. I've asked Callum actually to get onto the snake one. But I read a number of things. We'll go through those in a minute. But I also saw that the Italian boss part of Juve that was part of some of the governing bodies who's now left. He's got a very close relationship with Alexander Seferin. And I think it's that close that one of them is the godfather for their daughter. I don't know which way around it is. Now, he has obviously come out today and openly said that he'd had wholehearted trust in him. There is no way that he felt that person could have lied. And obviously, it's come out that he completely stabbed him in the back. And, you're never really going to know truly the politics behind all of this. But Callum's just got me a quote here. I've never seen a person lie so many times. Now, if that's someone who's really close to you in a relationship, that must be damning. Do you know what I mean? That must be really damning that someone's able to say that for someone that's in a close relationship. I think, unfortunately, there's too many politics involved these days, and it's really, really difficult to see. Another quote here. If I start with Ed Woodward, he called me last Thursday evening saying he's very satisfied with and fully supports the reforms. The only thing he wants to talk about was FFP, when obviously he had already signed something else. So I think the only thing to come out of this, or at least one of the big pluses of this new European Super League, is there won't be any FFP. So we'll allow the clubs that are able to spend money to spend more money with absolutely no restrictions at all. So that to me shows that obviously Ed was probably being sneaky, asking the right questions in order to find out those answers, because they're, as I said, that's the only real restriction that they'd had. So I'm going to move into the next geezer. Sorry, buddy, I haven't got the names up. What's your name, bro? In the middle, bottom left, bottom middle, yellow.
Oh,
Jamie, I'm so sorry, bro. I ain't got names up, and I've not seen you on the show before, man. So
yeah, bro, nice. It's all right, man.
Jamie, obviously, we had conversations in the background. What are your thoughts on this, and how damning do you think this is, and sort of where do we go from here?
I mean, it's nothing short of disgusting, realistically. Like, we look at the people that are involved in the formation of the Super League, and they're probably the most parasitic people that have ever entered the football industry. Gary Neville called for independent regulators to stop owners like Perez, the Glazers, Kroenke, Abramovich, people like that, from getting their hands on British institutions, which these football clubs are realistically. Like, Callum hit the nail on the head before when he spoke about how Liverpool and United, it's more than just a football club to these people. They're working class areas. People band together behind the support of their club, and it develops over years. And that soul's been ripped out of them. I don't think it's a coincidence that they've chosen a period of time where fans aren't allowed into football grounds at the minute. So there's no one that can protest. There's no banners that are going to be on display. Realistically, it's illegal to go and meet up outside a football ground and stick on a protest as well. Like, they've got grounds for the police to come and move them on. So they've been very cold. They've been very calculating with all of this. And make no mistake, it is for the money. Like we said, you look at, and again, like Callum said before, my hatred for Liverpool, man. I'm a Mancunian man, and I've always hated the Scousers. But this transcends that now. You look at Klopp, you look at Guardiola, you look at Solskjaer. That they're football men through and through. They've all won Champions Leagues before in their own rights, whether it's as a player or whether it's as a manager. And I don't know if anyone watched it on Monday Night Football before, but the fact that Klopp turned around and said that he hadn't heard about this until yesterday shows you everything that you need to know about this. The entire proposal is the biggest cash grab that we've seen since potentially the inception of the Premier League and Sky Sports and stuff like that. But at least that followed the rules of the English football pyramid. I'll say to my friends the other day when we were talking about it that Florentino Perez is probably the sort of person that would have purchased Pfizer as a company, pretending to care about the vaccine just so that he could make money from each dose that went out. And the fact that he's the chairman of the European Super League shows you everything. So slap every English club that has come together to be, the founders of this league, slap them with every sanction that you can, strip them of every honour that they've ever won, take the 20 titles that we've won away from us, take the treble away from us. And that's the only way. The Glazers are, again, the biggest parasites in our club. And, Joel Glazer hadn't said anything publicly about Manchester United for years, yet they decided to take the dividends out and use it to bring, Rob Gronkowski out retirement for the Buccaneers, to bring Tom Brady over. And as soon as they won the Super Bowl, who's fucking there? Joel Glazer doing press interviews. So it shows where their head's at. You know what I mean? So honestly, man, relegate us from the English football pyramid. Do the same with Liverpool. Do the same with City, with Chelsea, with Arsenal, with Spurs.
I was going to ask you just very quickly. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about how they deal with that situation, and there has been talks about potentially just removing them straight away. There have been talks, obviously, about removing points. Completely seeing them and banning them, stripping them of all their titles. Do you think that, obviously, that's a possibility? We don't know what's going to happen, but would you say that is justice for that type of thing, that deserved?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a kid from Wythenshawe. I grew up following United from as long as I can remember. My dad was a United fan. My granddad was a United fan. It runs in the family. I'm proud of the fact that we've won the most domestic titles in England. The fact that we won the treble when we're still the only English club to do so. This transcends that, man. Strip it, take it away. It's the only way they're going to listen. Let the players, because realistically, if you're Marcus Rashford, if you're Harry Maguire, if you're Bruno Fernandes, if you're Paul Pogba, whatever, you want to be playing in the Champions League. You want to, and there's this rumor that we're going to be kicked. The players are going to be banned from playing in the Euros and the World Cup. Let them leave. Let them go. Let them walk away. And when they realise that United are no longer the cash cow that they can milk, because nobody is interested in watching us anymore, because Joel Glazer and Ed Woodward decided to go on this venture that they thought, no one's going to care about because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Do it. It'll be heartbreaking for the fans of the clubs that have supported it from. I'm just seeing that banner come up. It'll be heartbreaking for the people that have followed this club for years. I get that, but it's the only way you're going to send a message, man. This is like the worst thing that could have happened, and I could go on forever, but I'm aware that other people want to speak. So, yeah. No,
that's cool. I've just realised Chris Smith's comment here. Fans since 1841. Now I know that's a typo, but I thought, fucking hell, he's an old man.
He's an old boy.
But good to see you here, Chris. Thanks, mate. I completely echo what you've said, quite honestly. I think it sort of goes back to my point about would it be easy for me to turn my back and say, look, no more? No, it wouldn't be easy, but I feel that that's what I would need to do. And I read comments today that I think they made a comparison. If anyone can get this for me in the comments you guys, something to do with Matt Busby and tarnishing the reputation that he...
I've got it here, Matt.
Go for it, yeah.
So what they've said is they believe there's parallels with the defiance of Matt Busby and his defiance to continue to play in the European Cup in the 50s when the FA didn't want us to. Now, that, in its own right, is probably the worst thing the club could have come out and said. They honestly, they couldn't have said anything worse. The fact that they brought up that and the Busby Babes, this club had a team die playing in that competition, and we are no longer going to be allowed to enter it because of our owners wanting more money. It is sick. It's a disgrace. And I don't even care what football team you support, whether you're a Leeds fan, whether you're a United fan, a Liverpool fan, Celtic fan, this is awful. And every single fan needs to come out and say this is wrong and we need to fight this, because we are fans of these 6 clubs in England. I can't speak for in Spain and Italy, but over in England, if this is the case, us as fans are terrified we are going to lose our club. We are no longer going to have a team to support. We're not going to sit there and watch our team play in a glorified friendly competition. It's just not going to happen. And I'm really lost for words, especially when that came out. It's It's disgraceful. And I believe, Stuart, you're probably right. I don't think what the pinnacle of football is the Champions League. Are the players going to leave Man United now so they can go to Leicester or West Ham so they can carry on playing in the Champions League? Like, what happens? It beggars belief that these thought this was a good idea. And do you know what? I don't even think they did think it was a good idea. I think they thought it was a good idea for themselves. They didn't even care for the fans. Was any of us fans even asked about this? None of us even knew it was going to come out until Sunday morning when it broke.
Well, I think there were talks back in November, wasn't there? There was a lot of talks back in November.
I don't think it was actually going to happen. I don't think anyone believed it'd be that stupid to go along with it. No, if they cared, they'd have consulted us. They had the Glazer family and Ed Woodward had a call with the official supporters trust of Man United on Friday night. They didn't even mention this. None of this came up in 2 days. They would have known about it all. So why didn't they mention it? They didn't mention it because they know there'd have been absolute uproar and unbelievable backlash from it from every single club. Which is why they kept it on the down low. They knew it because they've even come out and said they didn't care about the backlash because their main concern is maximising revenues for their own club. The whole picture of football is a secondary concern in their eyes. It's exactly what's come out. So they don't care. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the other teams. They don't care about grassroots football because all they are in it for is their own common interest, which is making money, because that is what football has become in the past 20, 30, 40 years. It happened when Sky came in, and I get Sky are a little bit complicit, but this is all on Premier League's head, the FA's head, because they have caused a bubble of money, and now it's happening to them. They started this, and now they are worried that it's going to happen even further to them. And unfortunately, they've enabled it. And unfortunately, if fans don't come together and this goes ahead, then football will die from the bottom up, and it will go completely, because grassroots will go, League 1, 2, all these clubs that have lost so much money in the past year because of the pandemic, all they'll go, because all that money that funnels down from the Premier League, it'll no longer be there because broadcasters won't want to fund the Premier League anymore because it's not going to be the global branding product that it is right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you were talking about where does this leave us? What happens with managers and players, and we've been in this position before, especially with the Glazers, and not knowing how to tackle that. We've talked about protests. Not everybody's going to turn up. Yeah, certainly a lot less than what would originally want to turn up. We've talked about boycotts, but it's very difficult to be able to organize that and actually follow through with that. So I feel that the next best thing obviously is players and a manager. But obviously when you're contracted to a club, how do you go about doing that? I mean, there's a couple of players that's come out today, Herrera, Bruno, and a few others that have come out and said what they've had to say, but that puts them into a very, very difficult conflict of interest, doesn't it? But so I don't know. I mean,
I think it's necessary, because I think the players part of it is necessary, and I understand it's some money talk from their point of view as well, but it's about biting the bullet. It happened in the NBA. There was a lot of bullshit going on with the owners trying to take advantage of the players because they thought they didn't have any leverage, but the players just went on strike. And the season, I can't remember if it was delayed or they just didn't have a season at all that year. And once they saw those numbers start going down, that's when they decided that they have to go and sit down with the players and make a decision. But unfortunately, it seems like the Premier League and football and stuff like that is more like the NFL, in the sense that the NFL's nickname from the fans is no fun league is because the owners run it. The players don't have any say. The players don't get much vote. They have to abide. They can't do this. They can't do that. And it seems like that's what they're making European football into. But if they can do it like the NBA and the players are willing to bite the bullet, like Bruno, like Herrera, and they might lose some money, but this is about saving football. This isn't about money.
Yeah, totally agree. Connor, mate, I'm sorry, bro. It's been a very, very long time. Everyone's obviously got a lot to say. Take me through your thoughts, mate. Obviously, I know you've had a lot of tweets. We've had a lot of conversations today in one of the groups, and it's not great. But tell me how you're feeling.
I personally think it's irrelevant whether it goes ahead or not. The fact that this idea was even proposed in the first place is ridiculous. My personal view is that it probably won't happen. I think there's enough backing with, not that fans can do much with the governments getting involved in UEFA and all of the football associations, that it won't go ahead. But I hope football fans don't forget this. And if it doesn't go ahead, that this just gets forgotten. And I think the reason why owners, particularly in England, think they can get away with this is because they treat fans like mugs. And they know they can get away with it because of the romance that's in football, and that they know that Old Trafford's never going to be empty. It's never going to be. If United play Real Madrid in the first, say the Super League goes ahead and Man United versus Real Madrid, that stadium's not going to be empty. Fans that say they won't turn up, people will. There's enough tourists, there's enough people interested in United that will turn up, and that's why they get away with this, because not enough people will make the stand. So that's my first point. I don't think it's irrelevant now whether it goes ahead or not. The fact that it's proposed during COVID times as well, which I think a few of the guys have said, if fans were in the stadium, this wouldn't be happening. It's just typical of those rats, really, that they've chosen now to get away with it. And it's quite funny, isn't it? We haven't heard from a single one of them. No press conference. No. There's been some statements on Twitter, but anyone can put some social media posts out. There's nothing official from them. None of them have spoke to Sky or to BT or to any media outlet in person, which I just find ridiculous. And I actually felt so sorry for Tuchel earlier and for Ollie yesterday and Klopp's interview today, because they know all the questions are going to be about this stupid idea. And what are they supposed to say? They're not going to come out and say how ridiculous it is, because they're going to be sacked within 24 hours. So I feel for the managers, I feel for the players, because there's not much they can do. Because I saw a lot of people saying Liverpool should chuck the game tonight, and obviously Chelsea tomorrow, and we play at the weekend. But say this doesn't go ahead and the Premier League and Champions League format still goes as normal next season. If you chuck the rest of the league and then next season it goes back to normal, you've just wasted the rest of the season. The main thing I want people to take away from it is that I hope this isn't lost further down the line if this doesn't happen. This should not be forgotten that this was even proposed and put on a table at the time where so many people are struggling. And the money they're talking about banding about is just absolutely ludicrous. Billions of pounds just for being in this god-awful tournament. Like Callum just said there, it's a glorified friendly at the end of the day.
Oh.
So, yeah, every person who's been on so far has said pretty much everything I was going to say. It's absolutely disgraceful. And those rats that are hiding behind the scenes, one of them needs to show face and actually come to the media and talk about this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you're absolutely right. Not one of them have come to the forefront. And that's what's continued to happen really for the last sort of 8 years. Probably even before that, obviously the Glazers took over in 2005. Okay. Things started getting bad for us from 2012-13. Okay. But at that point, we didn't need anybody to come out and say anything. And since that point, for the last 8 years, things have just been, for the most part, until Ollie's come in, I honestly believe that things have just been getting worse and worse. But still, you don't hear absolutely anything. And it's like the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. You could see the difference in Joel Glazer's face when they won it. He was almost in tears and completely beside himself that they obviously spent a lot of money, Tom Brady, various others, to get them back to where he feels that they belong. Now, you'd really expect to have that within someone's reversing, by the sounds of it. You'd really expect that to be reflective upon Manchester United as well. You know, you're in to own a business, club, whatever you want to call it, and you'd want that to be, you know, the same for us, especially when we're the fans of United and not Tampa Bay. Yeah. Hammer, have you got any more points on this? I know that you've spoken about the Americanization sort of thing. I'm not really too sort of up to scratch on the finances. Something that I read today was that they still believe that this would benefit everybody, you know, from the top division going down. And I read, so again, these are all facts and figures, but we don't know what to believe. But at the moment, from the Champions League, about £3.2 billion is put down into lower clubs in all divisions, something like that. Don't quote me on that. and they were stating that potentially with this new league, 5 billion would be available to lower league clubs. But who knows really what those figures are? You know, we don't know how that's going to work out, how it's going to happen. So, Hammer, have you got any more thoughts on finances or anything like that, mate?
Yeah, I got a few more. Are we good on that? Okay. I got a few more that I've been thinking of. One is, I think, I'm not sure if they have spent some of it, but I will say that the financial things in the American leagues are very strict. There's fines, there's restrictions. So yes, they might have paid Tom Brady, you know, a decent amount of money, but that means somebody else on the team lost a shit ton of money. That just means they took money away from whoever else was a star to accommodate Tom Brady. But the things one of the things that I want to point out is that, and I saw somebody's comment, I can't remember the guy's name. The reason this is such an issue, especially for European football, is, and I guess at some point they're thinking like this, is it's not set up the same way as in the States. In the States, the setup is college and getting drafted and going through. In Europe, it's yes, it wouldn't work. It's a different setup for how. Yes, it's a different setup how sports are made, how sports are done in Europe and how they're done in the States. So it just wouldn't work. And the other issue with the Super League thing is that essentially the way I'm seeing it as well is that in the States, once a year, halfway through the season for all the leagues, we have all-star weekends or all-star games. But that's once a year that we're seeing the best of the best play against each other. If you do this, it destroys any genuine hype, any genuine legitimacy, anything beside it, seeing the same exact big names play every single year, multiple times a season, over and over. It doesn't do the same thing as what in the States is. And I promise you guys, and I know in terms of football, I'll agree, yes, the love of it isn't over in the States as it is in Europe, at least for a lot of us. For people like me, you know, and like Temmie and shit, we love football, we love United. But this does not do the same thing in the States. And if they tried something like this in the States, I promise you, even the fans in the States for our sport to be like, no, this is some bullshit, because this isn't how sports is supposed to be. There's always supposed to be that underdog opportunity. And the JP Morgan thing, you guys aren't going to like this part, because I want to bet it didn't, even if it didn't make a lot of time on the news and over by you guys, but it got swept under the rug over here. Either before the pandemic, like right before, or a little bit before all that situation started happening, JP Morgan got busted in ports with a crate full of fucking coke. And you know how big those goddamn shipping crates are. And that just got swept under the rug. So there's a lot of shit once I started seeing how connected, and I forgot how connected Ed Woodward was to JP Morgan.
Well, that's mental, to be honest with you. I mean, I only know JP Morgan is a relatively respected company, and I understand that there's always positives, negatives, things that go under the radar, but and I mean, really, you take that with a pinch of salt. I think there are probably companies out there that get in trouble for things and are completely innocent, but it doesn't bode well, and it's something that obviously could have been a problem. I mean, moving forward, with regards to the German teams, for example, there were talks about them not that they wanted to obviously be part of that new structure, that they put themselves forward for it. I think everybody was pretty much foregone. Even Porto last night believed that Bayern, Dortmund, maybe even Leipzig, perhaps not, and Porto would be the next teams to sort of put themselves forward and be within those number of teams. But it's come out today. Bayern and Dortmund both said absolutely not. They're not going to follow that regime. They don't believe in it. This is about the fans. And Leipzig have said the same. Now, I've spoken about Bayern many, many times. In particular, they have footballing men in charge. And whilst initially it might please them, or at least be a positive for them to get involved in this, because it's money at the end of the day, and in order to function and be well ran, you probably need some money. That would obviously have interested them, but I think that they've either hightailed it out of there and thought, "Oh fuck, we don't want to create too much of a storm and whatever have you." But they've come out today and said no. Callum, the teams and things that are involved, buying. There was also talks about a voting system that would be needed. At the moment, there was only 12 guaranteed teams at the time. They need at least 14. First of all, do you know anything more about that? And what are your thoughts about the teams and that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, I've read probably the same as you, to be honest, Mark. I know the 3 big German teams have said no. I think the fundamental point in that one is those 3 teams have the 50+1 rule, which means they have a majority of fans basically making the decisions and owning the clubs, which says everything you need to know. It says fans didn't want this. I've only seen very recently that Sevilla and Porto have refused to join. Along with the 12 founding teams that have done this, so it completely eliminates the competition of it because they're never going to get relegated regardless of how bad they do. And I'm kind of focusing on Arsenal and Tottenham there. Why they seem to believe they're part of this Big Six at the moment. Neither team are in the top 6. Arsenal finished 8th last year and are currently 9th. They've not won the league for 17 years. Spurs haven't won the league since 1961, which is mental. Yeah, they're being classed as a big club. They're a big club all of them now. They've got a shiny new stadium. It's ridiculous.
That's a good point, actually. How we talk about the Big Six firstly in the English league, which we're very familiar with, and this is absolutely no slant on Tottenham or Arsenal at all. Okay, even Man City. Man City are a wonderful team. They ran very, very well. They've got lots and lots of money, but the big thing that they need in order to become this big European side is winning it. Okay, and then at the same time, you've got Arsenal and Tottenham. Tottenham haven't, unfortunately for them, won a trophy in many years, and Arsenal haven't even been in Europe for many years, apart from Europa. So how does that give them the right?
Well, the point on that, to be honest, Mark, is when you look at these founding members that have made this league up, Celtic, Rangers, 2 huge clubs. Celtic have won the European Cup. Red Star Belgrade, they're massive.
Yeah.
These clubs are huge, yet they weren't even consulted on this. Arguably, Celtic are as big as a club as United and Liverpool. Same with Rangers. I
read just very quickly, mate. I read a stat today. I think it was like 19 clubs that have all won the top European trophy that weren't even considered. I mean, how can you on one hand say that it's all the elite teams? How do you define elite? Do you know what I mean?
It's having billionaire owners who exploit the workers, who don't care about the local communities and have never cared about its fans. The problem with this is, and as we've known for many years in football, money has always come over morals. The money bubble has finally burst. There's a recurring theme with every single team who are founding members. Every single one of them is in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of debt. Now, Barcelona have got $1 billion worth of debt. The owners of our club have never put a single penny of their own money into our club, but we're £500 million in debt. Completely part of Ed Woodward, that. But we're so much in debt, hundreds of millions and millions of pounds in debt. All of a sudden, we get this lovely DAZN TV money and solidarity payment, and all of a sudden the Glazers are rubbing their hands together because they're going, well, that'll pay our debt off and we won't have to do a thing to it. That'll get rid of our debt. It'll make us 4 or 5 times as much money as we currently do. Forget the fans. Barcelona need this probably the most. Look at Messi's wages and Dembele's wages and Piqué and all these. Probably the same with Real Madrid. They're in a lot of debt. Spurs have probably done it because of the complete over budget of their stadium. It's a league for complete elitism and showing that the gap between reality and football is absolutely ridiculous. And it's almost like watching politicians who clearly never know about real life. It's like watching that. You're seeing these owners like Glazer come out today and spout all this nonsense about how it's for the good of the game and how it's for this and more money can go into it. And it's complete bollocks. It's just come out and say it for what this is. It's because we want to make more money. Fuck you, It's all about us now. We own your club. You don't matter. You've seen over the last year, fans haven't been there for the last year. United still made £500 million. You know what I mean? It means nothing. All of a sudden, they've made. Sorry, Hammer, just to finish.
Yeah.
They've realised that they can make a lot of money without fans. And all of a sudden now they're going, well, if we can do this, there'll be a bit of backlash. Everyone will go crazy. But eventually, we're going to do this whether you like it or not. And honestly it's ridiculous.
Well, it's that typical. Just very quickly, Hammer, and for Jamie, I'll let you come in next, mate. It's a bit like working from home for the last year. Okay, it was kind of alien to most companies. Okay, everyone's in a lot of companies where it's been applicable. They've now been able to work at home, and companies have thought, "Fuck, I can save all this money not spending on rent, on electricity, on everything, and now I'm going to put the onus onto my employees, which are at home." And I think you're absolutely right, Callum. I know that obviously in the pandemic it's hit teams massively. And
massively, of course, yeah, but we've still made a lot of money, and they've realised that without fans we can still do that.
Yeah, and United are one of those other clubs that still generate, and this is obviously where Woodward has been fantastic with the club. You know, he's got deals and hands in lots of different pies, and has made them a hell of a lot of money from commercial deals. So it's probably okay for a team like United where they can make money elsewhere. Jamie, you wanted to make a point, mate.
It's all right. I think Hammer wanted to come in, didn't you, Hammer? Like, do you want to jump in before I do?
Yeah, I'll make them really quick. I just want to say, and one is a quick question too, but the first point is I don't think this, even if it does go through as well, I don't think it can be a long-term success, because there's going to be a point, even if it explodes on the jump in terms of a business mind, right? Like, I like business, so like money side of this show, it's short-term explosion, but this can't be a long-term thing, because sooner or later, legitimate fans of football are just going to be like, okay, I'm watching the same shit every year. I don't really care anymore. And it'll start going down. And then my question really quick is for you guys over there. I don't know what the legal stuff is, but there's certain things that can happen from owners of sport teams over here where they could be forced to sell. Is there any type of legal things that can happen like that over there by you guys?
I'm unaware of it, to be honest. Otherwise, would have. I
No.
imagine. No.
Who's that?
You'd be delighted to know Leeds have equalised against Liverpool, by the way.
No, yeah, we did see that 1-1. Jamie, mate, I'll let you go first. Connor, I know you want to say something, buddy. Jamie, what were you going to say, mate? Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, I was just. There's some really, really interesting points that are made there, and I agree massively. You know, the German model of 50+1 works so well for them. Hence why, you know, they have such low season ticket price, etc. We're just talking about, like we were when we were talking about how people are so out of touch with the club when it comes to the owners, etc. So just to take us and Liverpool again, just for a second. Now, a big part of both clubs' identities is the history that's embedded in them throughout English football. Now, we're both owned by parasitic owners who don't care. They don't have any affinity with the club. Yet they absolutely love wheeling out Matt Busby for us and Bill Shankly for them as part of this idea of, oh, you know, we are still a grassroots club. We are still part of the community. But don't get it wrong that they only ever do that for profit. And that's what this shows, is that they've spent, you know, we look at Liverpool now, they spend the last year, you know, during the pandemic, they talk about, you know, you never walk alone, etc. This means more, all that nonsense, just to end up and betraying the working class roots of the city. And FSG have always been a weird one because, you know, I've always thought the Glazers were worse than Fenway Sports Group. But, you know, Liverpool fans are probably seeing it now, that the idea of having owners that are just genuinely not football fans whatsoever. They have no idea about football and how damaging it can be to your club. And it knocks me sick because the people that they reference in the marketing promos and stuff like that, Matt Busby wouldn't have stood for this. Like, Bill Shankly wouldn't have wanted this. The idea that they're stripping away people's right to earn their way into a competition. You know, Leicester winning the Premier League was one of the shocks of the century, and it was fantastic for their supporters that they got to compete against Europe's elite. You know, they went into the Champions League. They were playing teams like Sevilla and stuff like that. Like, that's a huge achievement for them, and they've built on that. We strip that away and we create a tournament that has, you know, that these and I think it was Jonathan in the chat said it perfectly. They're clubs that have big social media followings. They're clubs that are aesthetically pleasing and that are marketable. there are clubs with figures like Bill Shankly and Matt Busby. And that's why they push this agenda. And the final point I make is that Callum was talking about, the £3.5 billion. They're probably thinking, it'll pay our debts off. I don't even think they're going to reinvest it in the club. They're probably looking at, bringing Patrick Mahomes into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they get a chance, and that's what they'll use the money for. And honestly, like Gary Neville said it better than anyone probably could do on Monday Night Football, that we've all been Glazers out since 2005, but now this is the final straw, man. Like this is like they have to go. The same with all these parasitic owners, and there needs to be a change in the way that football clubs are owned and the independent adjudicators that can put through the deals as well, because it's just ruining the game. Sorry, I went on for a bit longer than I thought I was going to.
No, don't be sorry, mate. Absolutely fine. No, I completely agree with you. I mean, this, unfortunately, things weren't in place at the time, and this kind of really stemmed back into 2005, where lots of money was borrowed. And as you mentioned earlier, Hammer, with JP Morgan probably having a shoe in for that. And really, it's too far gone. And it's only now that we are unfortunately reaping the negative rewards, not rewards, but the shittiness from it, and we need. It's too little, too late, and it's only now that they seem to be acting upon it. Connor, you had a few more words, mate.
Yeah, I've got 2 points. Just what Jamie said there. This is why I said before, I hope fans don't forget this. And when I say fans, I mean not just United fans, all fans. Because even if this goes away, and I'm sure they'll do their best with their mates in the press, and they'll try and suppress this, if whatever the outcome may be, I hope football fans remember this. United fans have been saying, like you just said there, since the Glazers since 2005. But this day, if there's any positive that's come out of this, it's shown other fans what we've known for a while about the Glazers, and I'm sure what Arsenal fans have been saying about Kroenke and so on. On the second point about the sustainable model and about the money, and I can't remember whether it's Hammer or Callum that said about it's the same games and people start to get bored of it. I think the way that they'll get around that, and this was when it was first rumoured back in November, it was called Project Big Picture, or that was another project that Liverpool and United were heavily involved in at the time that was being proposed. And one of the proposals
what kind of shitty name is that?
I know, it's horrendous. But one of the proposals that was in that, and let's not forget, this is just the beginning. If Super League goes ahead, this is probably just the start. They've probably got a long-term plan for this. One of the things that was in there was that the games would be played elsewhere in countries that don't necessarily see these games, like places like Ottawa and Marrakesh, out over in Saudi Arabia and countries like that. That's how they'll get a new audience into the stadiums and bring a new audience to the game like that. And I think that's what will keep people I don't think any of us on here, but I think that's what will keep people engaged in it if they move to that kind of model. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of thing they're looking towards. And that is the big worry for me, because if Manchester United start playing elsewhere, you're not Manchester United anymore. You may as well just be called Red Devils or something, because you're not Manchester United anymore. So that's my big concern with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's something they've tabled for further down the line if this Super League goes ahead.
I just don't think that would be sustainable either. Money-wise, the amount of money that it costs for them to do that in the States here, when you got to travel West Coast to East Coast, North, South, everything, that would not be sustainable. And if it would be sustainable, even the fans that they're trying to go and get and fill in, they would have to charge ignorant amounts of money for those fans just to be able to get in, just to cover the amount of cost it would take to be flying all over Europe and all over the world. Even if that is what they thought, that doesn't make sense either.
No, I'm not saying it makes sense. I think they're trying to copy the fight game. That they always want that massive heavyweight fight. They want that box office event every single week, no matter where it is. And I think that's the kind of model that they're trying to push for.
Two more points I've got, actually. Ahmed, I'm going to ask you one of these. We spoke briefly about who needs to make a stand, who needs to go on strike, if that is feasible. But I saw a few comments tonight about sort of obviously bigger names, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi being another one. Is it down to should it be down to them to really make a statement? What are your thoughts on that? And what do you think? And who needs to do that? You're on mute, bro. We might have lost
A
him as
few
well.
points before I answer that question.
Go for it.
Okay, good. Just making sure I'm still with you. So I have my hands in like multiple different boxes in regards to football. I'm involved in I'm a shareholder with a second division Spanish club. In fact, when I say I commentate on it, I'm currently commentating on a team that's high up in the National League. I can tell you without giving away people's names or sources, there are a few people that are looking up at the Premier League and hanging and shaking their heads at them today. And just looking at them is just the goal or that they've attempted to demonstrate pulling this off, particularly at grassroots level, who are incredibly frustrated. And I can't, for the life of me, I've been involved in this grassroots thing for 2 years. For me, even though I'm a Man United fan, first and foremost, I can never ignore football because that's what we play. We play, we support, we give our heart and soul to it. And for what it's worth, I have been sympathetic to those clubs that have got bust this year. I've been sympathetic for those who've fallen short financially because of the pandemic. That hurts me in one case. Another thing is I've also been able to work in matches in the Champions League and in the Europa League this season through a third party. I can't reveal that here. But what I can tell you is that I went to against Ajax here. The locals spoke as if it wasn't ever in the Champions League. The locals spoke of it as if this was the holy grail for them. I don't think the bigwigs understand, even UEFA themselves, how important an achievement is for a club that have on our 1,000 fans that visit a game every week that couldn't have them for one night in front of however many to watch them take on 4-time European Cup winners Ajax. It was awful, but they spoke so brightly. They had a feel about it, and they were so excited to welcome people such as myself and others to their ground and to have a look around. It felt like it meant something to them. What that's taking away, this godforsaken thing they're trying to create, is that feel of the small club when it does get the chance to take on the big team in the FA Cup, in the Champions League, in the Europa League. What it takes away is we have a chance. We are toe to toe with one of the biggest clubs in the world, and it's taking that away from us. Thirdly, and finally, before I get onto your question, Mark,
no problem, mate.
It's about this thing that they're trying to do about transferring the European Cups to make them Super League titles. That is just a disgrace to the European Cup on its own. I've watched this petition for almost all my life, and it's the one thing I dreamt about doing. I'm a baller, was to make it to a Champions League final. If I ever got to play in a final like that, win or lose, I'd have felt proud nevertheless. And I'm sure there are players today conflicted to whether they should say something or not, who will tell themselves, I sacrificed everything. I sacrificed much for this club, for the people that I represented, and the locals who put faith in me to take the step up to the big time. I make it, and then today I get this thrown in my face. This disgusting project that is made up by Americans who have little to no understanding of the game and how important it is in our country, so they can monopolize it for themselves. It just cries of foul behavior, and like if anything, it just proves that we are just sheep, really, and all we can avoid the wolves, but the wolves always catch us, and there's nothing we can. It's just disgusting. And the players themselves, maybe they will need to make a statement. Maybe they will need to unify. Maybe they need to go on strong. I don't know. I'm not one to speak for them. But as a fan, in the end, I feel that they've been disgraced as well, seeing as they, as I have just said, been working hard in their careers or in their time as kids from when they were young to get up to the point they're at now, earning the money they're earning to be in mega matches against big teams, even in the Premier League where it's actually competitive, even though people say, you know, those in the bottom are there because they're not good enough. They're there on merit because they in the lower divisions and made it up to the Premier League. Those who make it through the qualifier as a Champions League get into the group stage. They earned it on merit. The meritocracy is what makes it almost an equal game. It's just those with the wealth that take it away from us.
That's a good point, actually. I had this conversation today. Obviously, it does get rid of that sort of footballing pyramid. Something that also came out about American owners at that point, anyway, at least. Obviously, I can't talk for all of them. Is that they can't grasp relegation and promotion. And that, to me, says it all. With the fact that, you know, they don't understand the game. I appreciate that doesn't happen, or it happens very little in America.
Doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen at all. Thanks, Hammer. So that to me says it all, really. And you're absolutely right, Ahmed, that fundamentally there's a dream for every club in lower leagues, and that dream might be an absolute fairy tale. That dream might be something to work towards, but fundamentally they are there to work towards that dream, right? To get up to the top tier level, to potentially qualify for Europe. And that's just going to essentially, if it replaces the Champions League, or it's not deemed to be the Champions League's not deemed to be the top tier European football again, because it won't be. Then where is that dream? What is the point for every other side lower down? Callum, you said you had another point, mate. Go on.
Yeah, I was just wanted to follow on what Hammer said. To be fair, it's not sustainable. He's completely right. And the thing is, with that being the case, and with it being this short-term thing, because it's not going to be sustainable, what happens then? It's so much astronomical amounts of money that it's not going to be sustainable. So when it does ultimately go bust and fails, all that debt that JP Morgan won't get back, where's that going to go? What's going to happen to the clubs then? Because if this does go bust, it could end these football and genuinely end them. There could be no Man United, there could be no Real Madrid, because it could be such an astronomical failure on them that the sheer amount of money that they may owe will just be too much, and they won't be able to survive. My next point is these players will probably want to play Champions League, and I just put a quote in the chat there that the Man United players, a source has come out saying that the players are just sad. They feel let down by those at the top of the club.
Yeah, I think it was someone from the Manchester Evening News, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know they're not the most reliable, but I can believe it. These players have dreamed all their lives of playing for a club like Manchester United. Obviously, I know we've not been at the top for the past few years, but we are still that global brand and that big, huge team that people look up for. And they've just been sold a dream and not being told that this was going to happen. And the thing is, what's going to happen to them? These are career influencing changes that could really lead to downfalls. Like, what happens if they now stay at United? Does Bruno Fernandes now not go to the Euros? Does Marcus Rashford not start for England? Does Harry Maguire not partner John Stones? There's so many other questions that are now coming into show. And just one final point. Those big games against Liverpool that Man United fans always look for, it's always the first game we look for in a calendar. We play them twice a year, sometimes more if we draw them in the cup. They're exciting because we play them twice a year. When we then go into this Super League and we play them 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year, that love affair and that excitement goes because it happens every few weeks.
It becomes an exhibition.
It becomes an exhibition, almost a pointless game between two what once were huge rivals. It's just now a nothing game between two teams, and it's destroyed.
It loses its value. I saw a tweet today that if you see all of these top clubs, Real, Barca, Barca United playing Liverpool, and that sort of cycles every. I don't know how long that's going to be, what the scheduling is going to be like, but how boring. How can they believe that that's sustainable? How can they believe that that's sustainable?
Yeah, but this is what I mean. I mean, Ugly Bear. I mean, that's a good name, but I did mention before that ultimately the Premier League and the FA have enabled this. Do not forget, it was only 9 months ago that the Premier League tried charging us £15 pay-per-view for a game. They enabled things like this because they got greedy too, and now it's happening to them. Unfortunately, the powerhouses might be that the Premier League are on the wrong side of it this time. This is what I'm saying. You're completely right, Matt. It loses its value. Playing Liverpool every 4 or 5 weeks is crap. Playing Real Madrid. When was the last time we played Real Madrid? When we now play them again in the Champions League, that would have been amazing. But now we're looking at playing them every single season, 3, 4, 5 times a year. It completely loses its value. It loses that aura. It loses that thing that you love as a football fan, and it becomes something that every weekend we look forward to. In the past 10 months, this football has been everyone's saviour in this pandemic because it's exciting. It's something to look forward to at the weekend. It's something to go to the game with your dad and have a drink with. It's something that means so much to so many people. People with mental health issues, it gives them a break from what's in their heads, and it's genuinely going to cause such a bigger issue. And Stu just put the younger generation thing. Why is somebody that is 10 years old a better fan than me? Why is me as a 24-year-old, why am I all of a sudden a better fan of a guy that's 65 years old?
Unfortunately, there is absolutely no way, and it shouldn't even come up into context of putting a figurative value on that. That means fuck all.
It means nothing. It means nothing. It's looking at this future where we can get a fan to come in so they can then give us their money when they're over 18. And then when they start giving the money, we can look at the next 10-year-old in 10 years' time so that they can come and follow United. It's ridiculous. It's pathetic. And it shows a lack of contempt for the fans who they clearly have not cared about for so long. And all this has done, with the Glazers in particular, with them being such a driving force for this, all it's done is show every other club, as well as with Kroenke, as well as it has with FSG, it's shown what bad owners they actually are. And I think everyone can see that the clubs themselves have been awful and behaved so badly. And all they can do, I said before, I feel sorry for Liverpool fans. I think every single fan of the clubs that aren't involved in this, I think they're all looking and going, wow, them fans, they must be absolutely seething. Thank God we're not involved. But they should be furious as well, because if this does come crumbling down, it will have a detrimental effect on their teams as well. And that is the most important point in all of this. The entire Premier League, from Premier League to the bottom team in the Northwest counties, they need to come out and go crazy, go ape shit at this. Write to your MPs, hammer, write to your governors, write whoever that you can, because this has got to be stopped.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there were some points just before I move on to you, Jamie. Sorry, buddy. There were some points today. I mean, it just looked like a pure business proposition. And when someone puts in a business proposition on something that's supposed to be loved and a sport that's loved, to use terminology like legacy fans and new fans, that's unbelievable. And like you said, Callum, if you're absolutely right, I feel that it's really, if this doesn't go through, which I hope to God it doesn't, it's going to make these owners look absolutely disgusting. How do they come back from that? And then when you see all this terminology as well, that kind of seconds that to some degree. It's just terminology that's, obviously I understand it, but not for football. For football, and that doesn't paint a picture on all the fans that have built this from the very ground up. Now.
Gary Neville made a really good point as well, how he's kept so quiet about the Glazers over the past few years on Sky Sports.
Just quickly, mate, I'm going to go to Jamie. We'll talk about Gary in a minute. I was going to allude to that in a minute. So, Jamie, you're on mute, mate, just in case you weren't aware.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, bro?
Yeah, there's just a couple of points I wanted to jump on there. So, like Carl's spot on, just spitting facts as he always does. Now, but what I find hilarious is when he talks about, two once, great clubs playing each other like over and over again. That's the Old Firm derby. like, I swear to God, the Old Firm derby gets played about 8 times a season. Like, every time you turn the football on, like you turn Sky Sports on, they're advertising the next Old Firm derby. And honestly, man, I'm sick of it. And it is the same thing. That all it's going to be is, you know, when Sky Sports hype up, you know, and they always call it something stupid like Red Monday whenever it's United versus Liverpool, and it ends up being a fucking 0-0 draw or whatever, or it's, you know, 1-1 at best. And that's what we're going to end up with. You know, there were so many points that were hit there, but then just on from that, just digging a bit deeper into like players that want to play into the Champions League. How many players play for these clubs now that signed contracts that came to the club under the pretense of being in the Champions League, under projects that were built around winning the Champions League? Bruno Fernandes didn't join United because he wanted to play in the, you know, the inaugural season of the European Super League, whilst also simultaneously playing in, you know, dropping off the football pyramid. He signed because he wanted to play in the Champions League. Marcus Rashford, you know, he's the perfect example of a kid that grew up in Movenshaw, played for the academy. You know, he came through Fletcher Moss, and ended up doing it on a big stage, and is now an integral part of our first team. He wants to play in the Champions League, man. The guy don't want to score pointless goals against PSG. Well, obviously not PSG, sorry, but you know what I mean. Like, you want to score pointless goals against Chelsea and Spurs and Arsenal in some random division that you don't earn a right to be in. And again, it just shows the disconnect that these clubs have with us. And it genuinely makes me wonder how many of these players have like a legal right to actually cancel their contract, to say that, you know, well, I signed my contract under these pretenses. These were the caveats that you said we were going to hit. I joined because I was bought into this project. And to some extent, you know, what does Solskjaer do? Like, what does Guardiola do? What does Klopp do? Like, obviously, I'm not really bothered about Ryan Mason because, like, what are Spurs going to do anyway? But, you know,
they said that about Ollie, didn't they? So we have to be careful.
Oh yeah. Sorry, you know, I'll give him that. You know, maybe he will be good. Somebody did show me a picture of him before where he just looks like a bit of a Harry Kane hybrid, though, which was a bit weird. But you know, there's some really big footballing men that are in charge of these clubs, like coaches and managers, and I refuse to believe that this is what they want. I refuse to believe that, you know, like Solskjaer, who won us the treble in the 92nd minute. Like, I refuse to believe that he has the same ideas about this European Super League. And it'll be the same with what Klopp did, where he came out today and said that he didn't know anything about it. And they've just been left in the dark. I did have another point, but it's completely gone out of my head now because, you know, Callum spoke for so long. But yeah, so I'm only joking, bro. But no, so I'll pass it. I'll pass it on.
No, it's probably my fault. Sorry. I've got a couple of people in the background, obviously mentioning about mental health. I think that this has been quite a big thing, obviously, over the past year at least. And there's been lots of conversation, especially from the All for United account, you know, the amount of people that kind of put themselves forward because of mental health, because of how lockdown was making themselves feel, you know, this is quite an important thing for us. So firstly, I'll go to Hammer. You said that you had a couple of things on that.
Yeah, man. So first I'm gonna say, and I will prevent, because I even put it in the message group that talking about it, I might get a little emotional. So if I do start to tear up, even though I will try not to, because I hate crying in front of people, but football isn't just a sport to me, or sports overall isn't just a sport to me. Some people on All for United know that I started a mental health podcast, and it's because I struggled with mental health since I was 14. And whether it was this football, whether it was American football, whether it was basketball, I wrestled, I played baseball, I even tried rugby for a short amount of time, but fuck that. This is so much more than just a sport for people. This is so much more than just numbers, right? And whether it's this channel, whether it's watching United, but for me, my last 2 years of university, 2016, 2018, I was suicidal. There were days that I woke up sad that I fucking woke up, and that fucks with your head. But there were times that even in those days, right, in those couple of years, we weren't a great side. We weren't doing amazing things. We weren't playing beautiful football. But I still looked forward to it every week because there was going to be one of the few times, even if it was just for the 90 minutes or those 2 hours, where my mental health wasn't going to fuck with me because I was getting to watch United. In terms of just football, other than just United, there were days where I was at my lowest when I was in college, and I would go and find a field where it would just be me, a football, my cleats and a goal, and it would be the only time in a week and 2 weeks longer than that I felt like I could breathe because of how bad my depression was. And then this channel during the pandemic, like you guys have been talking about, you know, I'm at a point where I have control of the things that I struggled with in the past, but this pandemic would be hard on anybody, especially people with mental health. And discovering your channel, at first, I was just going to stay in the comments and chat. But when I saw you guys talking about it, the way you talked about it, I wanted to come on and start talking about United too, because I fucking love United and I love football overall. This is going to affect so many people's mental health because it isn't just, you know, watching a game. It's a passion, it's a love. And I think that's what I know. And I kind of like when conversations go around back into a big circle. And it was something that we talked about right at the beginning of this, where we were like, how to explain this to people who don't care about football. And it's hard because people who don't care about football, people who don't care about sports, don't understand that this isn't just some game that we watch. This is something that we love. This is something that gives us strength to keep going when days are just really hard. And that's all I'd say on that.
Massive respect for you, mate. Obviously, that's not the subject that we're talking about today. But ultimately, with this transition, that isn't about the fans, that will have a massive detrimental effect on fans that may or may not be in a similar position to you, mate. And fair play to you. Thank you very much for sharing that, and massive respect to you, mate. And that goes for lots of other people. You know, again, this is not what this show is about today, but we've said on numerous occasions that, you know, we're only a message away or whatever. So please, obviously, talk to us if you're feeling shitty in any way, shape, or form. Someone else that wanted to come in. Who was that? Is there any other points that we had? I'm just trying to see here now.
I think Connor did.
Connor, did you have something else, bro?
Yeah, well, it was just to echo really what Hammer said, and huge respect for coming on here and saying that, because it needs to be spoken about more. I know not what this show is for, but any platform is a good platform to use to talk about it. So yeah, and I can only echo what Hammer said. And for me personally, when I was going through mine in January of this year, and you know, I was off work watching United in the Premier League and even the Europa League, as people knock it, just watching them in those tournaments, the domestic or the football structure that we know was all that I had at that time, because you know, everything else that I'd binned off, watching United was the highlight of my week. And like I said, getting involved in this channel was a big part of that. And that's why I said earlier about I worry about the future of where this is going. And I do believe this is just the start. If they do try and move this away from Europe, and I just couldn't imagine not traveling up the M5, getting annoyed in the motorway traffic and going up to watch United in the Premier League every other weekend, and you know, annoyed on the way home that we've just lost to Crystal Palace or whatever. So, you know, it's little things like that these owners just don't care about, and they could move this sport any which direction they want. They could not care less about any of these little stories. Like I said, I'm sure we've all got them on here. Me and my mate going up there, I said, not getting back till 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes, you know, complaining that we've just lost to Burnley at home. Little things like that these parasites will just never understand. So yeah, that's all I had to say on that.
No, fair enough. And as always, mate, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that as well. And as I said, me or any other boys or for anybody else, obviously in the comments and that, thanks for coming over tonight. Really appreciate it. And if you have anything that you need to talk about, then I can assure you, each and every one of these boys and everybody else within the channel will be more than happy to help. Listen, I'm gonna call it a night now. I don't think there's really anything else that we could potentially go over. I think that obviously a lot of emotions are going about at the moment, understandably, and we'll have to see how things kind of materialize. As I've already said, and I'm sure everybody else is in the same boat. Ultimately, I hope it falls over for them, and I hope that it really fucks up their credentials and their I can't think of the bloody word, but just, you know, I hope it puts them in a negative light.
What if it was just a massive prank and they were never actually going to do it?
Well, that would probably be their excuse, Callum. Yeah, we've heard fucking everything, and you know what? It's getting to the point now where I'm sure that someone will throw somebody on the bus, or all sorts of things will come out at some stage. Yeah, and I just hope it doesn't work out for them. But then it leaves the clubs in a really difficult position, because ultimately this isn't the club. Okay, the club that we know is a club that's gone from 0 to 100. Okay, and they've had to build over numerous generations to be where they are now. Unfortunately, the club is now owned by owners, and that's who we need to point the finger at. Right. For those of you tuning in, thanks very much, guys. Seriously, thanks for coming over, and thanks for all your comments. We will probably, I don't quite know what Ben's got going on, but I think he's got another big show tomorrow night, and there may be more that's being covered in response to obviously a lot of things. I saw a lot of comments in the last few minutes about what's going to happen to Orth United. Now, I can't honestly answer that at the moment. I think that depending on what the outcome is, how quickly that happens, I think that things will just continue as they are for now. But I know that, you know, it's put us, not us, in a difficult position as such, but if we need to sort of stay firm and not agree and carry on with these sorts of things, then at some point we're going to have to draw the line. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But listen, thanks for all tuning in. Thanks for all the likes. Get all the likes and comments, and make sure you subscribe. And I'll speak to you all very soon.